I need you to understand something right off the bat. I'm not the villain here. But for years, I felt like I was being treated like one. See, I'm adopted. My parents brought me home when I was 3 months old, and my sister Claire? She was already 5. And let me tell you, she never let me forget that we didn't share blood. Growing up, it was little comments here and there. Nothing my parents ever noticed. But I felt it. Every single time. Fast forward to this past Thanksgiving, I'm 32, she's 37. I showed up to my parents' house with my famous pumpkin cheesecake, the one everyone begs me to make. The dining room smelled like turkey and cinnamon. My mom was buzzing around, my dad was carving, and Claire? She was holding court at the head of the table, showing off her engagement ring for the millionth time. Her wedding was 4 months away, and trust me, she made sure nobody could forget it. But something felt off the moment I walked in. Claire kept giving me these looks. You know that feeling when someone's sizing you up? Like they're just waiting for the right moment to pounce? That's what Claire was doing. I set my cheesecake down, gave hugs all around, and sat down across from her. She smiled, one of those tight, fake smiles, and said, "Oh, you actually came. I wasn't sure you'd make it." Now, that might sound innocent to you. But I knew Claire. That was a test. I just smiled back and said, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." My mom jumped in, bless her heart, trying to keep things light. She started talking about the wedding, asking Claire about the venue, the dress, the flowers. And Claire? She ate it up. She went on and on about how perfect everything was going to be, how she'd been planning this since she was a little girl, how it was going to be the wedding of the century. I just nodded and sipped my wine. But then my Aunt Linda, sweet, clueless Aunt Linda, made the mistake of asking me a question. And that's when Claire's mask started to slip. Aunt Linda smiled at me from across the table and said, "So honey, are you going to be in the wedding party? You two have always been so close." I swear the room temperature dropped 10 degrees. I opened my mouth to answer, but Claire cut me off fast. "Oh well, actually," she said, laughing in this high-pitched, nervous way, "I've already chosen my bridesmaids. My real friends. The people who've been there for me through everything, you know? Real friends." She emphasized it just enough that everyone noticed. My mom's smile faltered. My dad stopped chewing. Aunt Linda looked confused. And me? I just sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, frozen. Claire kept going, like she couldn't help herself. I mean, no offense, but I wanted my bridal party to feel authentic. You understand, right? Authentic. That word hung in the air like a grenade. I finally found my voice and said, "Of course. It's your day." But inside, I was screaming. Because this wasn't new. This was Claire reminding me once again that I didn't quite belong. But she wasn't done yet, not even close. After that awkward exchange, we tried to move on. We ate, we made small talk, we pretended everything was fine. That's what our family does, we sweep things under the rug and smile for the photos. But then my dad stood up to make a toast. He raised his glass and started talking about family, about gratitude, about how lucky he was to have both his daughters. Both his daughters. I saw Claire stiffen. My dad went on, his voice getting a little emotional. "I'm so proud of both of you girls. You've both grown into such amazing women." He looked right at me when he said it, and I swear I saw tears in his eyes. It was one of those rare moments where I felt seen. Actually seen. But Claire? Oh, Claire couldn't let that stand. The second my dad sat down, she cleared her throat loudly and stood up. "Actually, Dad, since we're doing toasts, I have something to say too." My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. That was her "I'm about to make this about me" tone. And what came out of her mouth next left everyone speechless. Claire raised her glass, looked around the table and said, "I just want to say how grateful I am for my real family. The people who share my blood, my history, my DNA." She paused, letting it sink in. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters, right? Biology, real family. I felt like I'd been slapped. My mom gasped. My dad said, "Claire, that's enough." But she kept going, her eyes locked on mine. I mean, don't get me wrong, adoption is a beautiful thing. But let's not pretend it's the same as being actually related, right? The table went silent. My Aunt Linda looked horrified. My cousin Josh stared at his plate. And me? I just sat there, my face burning, my heart pounding. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. But then Claire smiled, this cruel, satisfied smile, and sat back down. Like she'd just won something. My mom started crying. My dad was yelling at Claire. And I just sat there. Because what do you even say to that? But then Claire reached into her purse and everything got so much worse. Claire pulled out an envelope, a thick, official-looking envelope, and slid it across the table to me. "Since we're all being honest tonight," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "I think it's time we settled something." I stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "What is this?" I asked. "Open it," she said. So I did. Inside was a printed invoice. An itemized invoice. And at the bottom, in bold letters, was a total, $4,892. I looked up at her, confused. What is this?" Claire leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "That's what Mom and Dad spent on your adoption fees, legal costs, and medical expenses when they brought you home. I did the research. Adjusted for inflation, of course." The room went dead silent again. My mom whispered, "Claire, stop." But Claire ignored her. "I just think it's fair," she continued, "that if you're going to keep pretending you're really part of this family, you should at least pay your way. Don't you think?" I looked at that bill and something inside me just snapped. Here's the thing about humiliation: sometimes it doesn't break you. Sometimes it clarifies things. In that moment, staring at that ridiculous bill, everything became crystal clear. This wasn't about money. This was about power. This was Claire's way of reminding me that I would always be less than. That I would always owe something. That I would always owe something. That I would never truly belong. And you know what? I was done. Done being the punching bag. Done being grateful just for existing in this family. Done letting her make me feel small. I looked up at her and I saw it, that smug, satisfied look on her face. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd finally put me in my place. But what Claire didn't know was that I had spent the last 6 months helping plan her dream wedding. Not officially, of course. But her fiancé Derek? He'd been asking me for advice. Vendor recommendations. Budget tips. Because apparently Claire was impossible to work with, and Derek trusted me. And in those conversations, Derek had told me things. Things about Claire. Things she definitely didn't want anyone to know. So I smiled, folded up that bill, and said 5 words that would change everything. I looked Claire dead in the eye and said, "I'll pay every single penny." The table went quiet again, but this time it was different. Confused. My mom said, "Honey, no, you don't have to," but I held up my hand. "No, Mom. She's right. If this is what it costs to be part of this family, then fine. I'll pay it." I stood up, still holding that envelope, and looked around the table. "But I have one condition." Claire's smile faltered just a little bit. "What?" she asked. I kept my voice calm, steady. "I'll write you a check right now. $4,892. But in return, I want you to be honest with everyone here. Especially Derek." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. "You know exactly what I'm talking about," I said. And just like that, the power shifted. Because Claire knew. She knew that I knew. And now everyone at that table could see the panic creeping into her eyes. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. I let the silence stretch out, watching Claire squirm. My dad finally said, "What's going on here?" I shrugged, keeping my eyes on Claire. "Nothing, Dad. I just think that if we're all being honest tonight, we should all be honest. Right, Claire?" She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I said softly. "Here's the thing, I wasn't bluffing. About 6 months ago, Derek had called me, frustrated. He said Claire had been acting weird, secretive. Staying out late, not answering her phone. He asked me, as her sister, if I knew anything. At first I didn't. But then I started paying attention. And what I found out? It would destroy her. But I wasn't going to spill it all right there at Thanksgiving dinner. That would have been too easy. Too quick. No, I wanted Claire to stew. I wanted her to spend the next 4 months terrified, wondering what I was going to do. Wondering if I'd tell Derek. Wondering if her perfect wedding would come crashing down. So I just smiled, grabbed my coat, and walked out. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't hug anyone. I just walked straight out of that house with my head held high. My mom followed me to the driveway, crying, begging me to come back inside. "Sweetie, please, don't leave like this. Claire didn't mean it. But I just hugged her and said, "Mom, I love you. But I can't do this anymore." I got in my car and drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I got to my apartment, I poured myself a giant glass of wine and sat on my couch in the dark. My phone started blowing up almost immediately. Texts from my dad, voicemails from my mom. Even my cousin Josh sent me a message saying, "Holy crap, what just happened?" But nothing from Claire. Radio silence. Which told me everything I needed to know. She was scared. Good. Let her be scared. Because what she didn't realize was that I hadn't just walked out of Thanksgiving dinner. I'd walked out with all the power. And I had 4 months to decide exactly what to do with it. But 3 days later, Claire finally reached out, and what she said shocked me. It was a Tuesday morning. I was at work, trying to focus on spreadsheets, when my phone buzzed. A text from Claire. The first one since Thanksgiving. My stomach dropped. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. It said, "We need to talk, please. I'm sorry." I stared at those 3 words, "I'm sorry," and almost laughed. Claire never apologized. Ever. This was new. I didn't respond right away. I let her sweat for a few hours. Finally, during my lunch break, I texted back, "About what?" She responded immediately. "You know what? Can we meet? Coffee?" Part of me wanted to ignore her completely. But the other part, the part that wanted answers, that wanted to see her squirm, that part was curious. So I agreed. We met the next day at a Starbucks halfway between our apartments. When I walked in, Claire was already there, sitting in the corner, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy bun. This wasn't the polished, put-together Claire I knew. And when she saw me, she burst into tears. I sat down across from her, and Claire immediately started sobbing. "I'm so sorry," she choked out. "I don't know what came over me. I was stressed about the wedding, and I snapped. Please forgive me." I sipped my latte and said nothing. Just watched her cry. She kept going. "You're my sister. I love you. I didn't mean any of it. The bill, the things I said, it was all just stupid. Please, please don't be mad at me." I tilted my head. "Don't be mad. Claire, you humiliated me in front of our entire family." "I know," she whispered. "I know. And I'll do anything to make it up to you. Anything, anything, anything." That word hung between us. I leaned forward. "Anything." She nodded desperately. "Yes, anything." She nodded desperately. "Yes, anything." I considered her for a long moment. Then I said, "Okay. I'll forgive you." Her face lit up with relief. "Really?" "On one condition," I added. Her smile faltered. "What?" I smiled sweetly. "You uninvite Mom and Dad from your wedding." Her jaw dropped. "What? No. Are you insane?" And you should have seen the look on her face. Now, before you think I'm a monster, let me explain. I didn't actually want Mom and Dad uninvited from the wedding. That would have been cruel. But I needed to show Claire something. I needed to show her what it felt like to be forced to choose. To be told you don't belong. To have someone hold power over the most important moments of your life. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious," I said. "You want my forgiveness? You want me to keep quiet about what I know?" "Then Mom and Dad don't come to the wedding." But they're paying for half of it," she sputtered. I shrugged. "Sounds like a problem." Claire's face turned red. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I asked. "Because last week, you handed me a bill for being adopted." "Because last week you handed me a bill for being adopted. You told our entire family I'm not real family. So now I'm just wondering, if I'm not real family, why would you be?" She sat back, stunned. I could see her brain working, trying to figure out how to regain control. But she couldn't. Because for the first time in our lives, I had the upper hand. And I wasn't letting go. Claire's hands were shaking. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "Life isn't fair, Claire," I said. "You taught me that." We sat there in silence for what felt like forever. Finally she said, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand something," I said quietly. "I want you to understand something," I said quietly. "I want you to understand what it feels like to be treated like you're less than. To be made to feel like you don't belong. To have someone hold something over your head just because they can." Tears streamed down her face. I get it. Okay? I challenged. Because I don't think you do. I think you've spent your whole life making me feel small so you could feel big. And I'm done with it. She wiped her eyes. So what now? You're just going to ruin my wedding? Is that your plan? I leaned back in my chair. I haven't decided yet. That was a lie. I'd already decided. But I wanted her to suffer a little longer. I wanted her to spend the next 4 months looking over her shoulder, wondering when the hammer would drop. But then something unexpected happened that changed everything. 2 weeks after the coffee shop confrontation, my phone rang. It was Derek, Claire's fiancé. My stomach dropped. Hey, I answered cautiously. Hey, he said. His voice sounded strained. Can we talk? In person? Oh no. About what? I asked, even though I already knew. About what? I asked, even though I already knew. About Claire, he said. About everything. We agreed to meet at a bar near his office that evening. When I got there, Derek was already nursing a beer, looking absolutely miserable. I slid into the booth across from him. What's going on? He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. She's cheating on me, isn't she? My heart stopped. I hadn't told him. I hadn't told anyone. But somehow he'd figured it out. What makes you think that? I asked carefully. What makes you think that? I asked carefully. He laughed bitterly. Come on. I'm not stupid. She's been acting weird for months. And after Thanksgiving, after whatever happened between you two, she's been terrified. She jumps every time her phone rings. She won't let me see her texts. She's hiding something. I sat back, torn. This was my chance. I could confirm his suspicions right now. I could blow up Claire's entire life with one sentence. But here's where things got complicated. I looked at Derek, this kind, genuine guy who'd always treated me like family, and I felt sick. Because yes, Claire had been awful to me. Yes, she deserved consequences. But did she deserve to have her entire life destroyed? Did Derek deserve to be blindsided like this? I took a deep breath. Derek, I can't answer that question for you. His face fell. So it's true. I didn't say that, I said quickly. What I'm saying is, if you have concerns about Claire, you need to talk to her. Not me. She won't tell me anything, he said desperately. She just keeps saying everything's fine, that I'm being paranoid. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Then you need to decide if you can marry someone who won't be honest with you. That's not my choice to make. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You're right. We talked for another hour. He told me about all the red flags he'd been ignoring. The late nights. The mysterious phone calls. The way Claire had become distant and cold. And the more he talked, the more I realized something. Claire's wedding was already falling apart. I didn't need to destroy it. She was doing that all by herself. And then Derek asked me a question that changed everything. Derek finished his beer and looked at me seriously. Can I ask you something? Sure, I said. Do you think I should still marry her? I froze. This wasn't a question I could dodge. This was Derek asking me point blank if he should commit his life to my sister. And honestly, I didn't know what to say. Because despite everything Claire had done to me, she was still my sister. Or was she? Hadn't she made it clear at Thanksgiving that we weren't really family? I chose my words carefully. Derek, I think you should marry someone who makes you feel loved, valued and secure. Someone who treats you like a partner, not a project. Someone who's honest with you. He nodded slowly. And Claire doesn't do that. It wasn't a question. It was a realization. I can't answer that for you, I said again. But, no. From what you've told me tonight, no. She doesn't. He put his head in his hands. God, what a mess. We sat there in the dimness of the bar and I felt something shift. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about Derek deserving better. And honestly, maybe I did too. When I got home that night, I found something that made my blood run cold. I walked into my apartment and saw an envelope shoved under my door. A fancy, cream-colored envelope with my name written in elegant calligraphy. My hands shook as I opened it. It was a wedding invitation. Claire's wedding invitation. But here's the thing, my name was on it, but not as a guest. It was an invitation to be a bridesmaid. Written at the bottom, in Claire's handwriting, was a note. Please. I'm begging you. I need you there. I need my sister. Let's start over. See, I stared at that note for a solid 10 minutes. Was this real? Was Claire actually trying to make amends? Or was this just another manipulation? Another way to control me? I thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation at Thanksgiving, the bill, the cruel words. But I also thought about all the years before that. The childhood memories, the inside jokes, the moments when Claire had actually been there for me. Was it possible she really was sorry? That she'd realized what she'd done? Or was I just being naive? I called my mom to find out the truth. My mom answered on the first ring. Sweetie, hi. I've been hoping you'd call. Mom, did you know Claire was going to invite me to be a bridesmaid? There was a pause. Yes. She told me yesterday. She's really trying, honey. She feels awful about what happened. I sat down heavily on my couch. Does she though? Or is she just scared I'm going to ruin her wedding? Another pause. Longer this time. Honey, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. Your sister, she's complicated. She's under a lot of stress with the wedding, and I think Thanksgiving was her breaking point. But that doesn't excuse what she did. No, I agreed. It doesn't. But, my mom continued, I also think she's realizing she's been pushing everyone away. Derek's been distant. Dad's barely speaking to her. And you're the only sister she's got. She made it pretty clear I'm not her real sister, I said bitterly. My mom sighed. I know. And she was wrong. So wrong. But maybe this is her way of trying to fix things. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Then my mom told me something that made everything make sense. There's something you should know, my mom said quietly. About Claire. About why she's been so awful to you lately. My heart started pounding. What? She's jealous, my mom said simply. I almost laughed. Jealous? My mom laughed. Jealous? Of what? Of you. Of how easy things seem to come to you. Your job, your friends, your life. Claire's been struggling, honey. The wedding planning has been a nightmare. She and Derek have been fighting constantly. Her job is stressing her out. And then she looks at you and you just seem so together. I was speechless. Mom, my life isn't perfect. I know that. You know that. But Claire doesn't see it that way. She sees you as the person who came into our family and took attention away from her. And now, as an adult, she sees you as the person who has everything figured out while she's falling apart. Suddenly, Thanksgiving made more sense. The cruelty, the bill, the public humiliation, it wasn't really about me being adopted. It was about Claire feeling like she was losing, at everything. That doesn't make what she did okay, I said firmly. I know, my mom said. But there's more. What do you mean there's more? I asked, my stomach churning. My mom hesitated. Claire's been seeing a therapist. Did you know that? No, I said, surprised. She started going about 3 months ago. After she and Derek had a huge fight. She didn't want anyone to know, but she's been dealing with a lot of insecurity. A lot of childhood stuff she never processed. I felt a pang of something. Sympathy? Understanding? I wasn't sure. What kind of childhood stuff? Stuff about when you were adopted, my mom said softly. About how she felt like Dad and I paid more attention to you because you were new, because you needed more help adjusting. She's been carrying that resentment for almost 30 years. 30 years. My entire life. Claire had been resenting me for my entire life. Mom, I was a baby. I didn't ask to be adopted. I know, sweetie. And that's what the therapist is helping her understand. But it's hard. She's unlearning a lot of toxic patterns. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt bad for Claire. But another part of me was still so angry. And then my mom dropped the real bombshell. There's something else, my mom said, her voice barely a whisper. Derek called off the wedding yesterday. My jaw dropped. What? He called Claire yesterday morning and said he needed time to think. That he wasn't sure they should get married right now. That they needed to work on their relationship first. So Derek had actually done it. After our conversation at the bar, he'd taken action. Oh my God, I breathed. Claire's devastated, my mom continued. She's been holed up in her apartment, crying nonstop. She thinks she's lost everything. Her fiancé, her sister, her dignity. I felt a weird mix of triumph and guilt. I'd wanted Claire to face consequences for her actions. But now that it was happening, I felt bad. Is that why she invited me to be a bridesmaid? I asked. Because her wedding's falling apart and she's desperate? Partly, my mom admitted. But I also think she genuinely realizes she's been awful to you. She asked me to apologize on her behalf. She knows she doesn't deserve your forgiveness. She was right about that. But then Derek texted me, and what he said changed everything. I was still on the phone with my mom when my phone buzzed with a text. It was Derek. I told Claire I know about Marcus. My blood went cold. Marcus. That was the name I'd been holding back. The secret I'd been keeping. Marcus was Claire's coworker. The guy she'd been having an affair with for the past 6 months. I'd found out by accident, saw them together at a restaurant across town when I was on a date. They'd been holding hands, kissing, acting like a couple. I'd confronted Claire about it privately and she'd begged me not to tell Derek. Promised it was over, swore it would never happen again. But clearly Derek had found out anyway. "Mom, I have to go," I said quickly. "Is everything okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I'll call you later." I hung up and immediately called Derek. He answered on the first ring. "You knew," he said. His voice wasn't angry, just defeated. "Derek, you knew and you didn't tell me." "It wasn't my place," I said, my voice shaking. "It wasn't my relationship." "You should have told me," he said, and he was right. "You're right," I said quietly. "I should have told you. I'm sorry." There was a long silence. Then Derek said, "I found out because Marcus's wife called me. Apparently they're getting divorced. She wanted me to know what my fiancé had been doing with her husband." My heart sank. "Derek, I'm so sorry." She cried, she begged, she promised she'd end it. But then I checked her phone. She's still texting him, still seeing him. And I'm done. "I don't blame you," I said. "The wedding's off," he continued. "For good this time. I'm not marrying someone who can't be faithful, who can't even be honest." "That's the right decision," I told him. "But I need you to know something," he said. "When I confronted Claire, she blamed you." I blinked. "What?" "She said you'd been poisoning me against her. That you'd been trying to sabotage the wedding from the start. That you told me about Marcus out of spite." I felt rage building in my chest. "Derek, I know," he interrupted. "I know you didn't. But Claire's telling everyone that this is all your fault." And just like that, I became the villain in Claire's story. Within 24 hours, my phone exploded. Texts from relatives I barely talked to, voicemails from my mom's sister. Even my grandmother called, asking me what I'd done to Claire. "You ruined her wedding," Aunt Linda texted. "How could you be so cruel?" Cousin Josh sent, "I knew you were jealous, but this is low." My own mother called, her voice tight. "Honey, Claire's saying you told Derek about Marcus. Is that true?" "No," I nearly shouted. "Derek found out from Marcus's wife. I had nothing to do with it." "But you knew?" my mom asked. "And you didn't tell us?" I felt trapped. Cornered. "It wasn't my secret to tell, Mom. It was Claire's relationship. She made her choices. But now everyone thinks you sabotaged her wedding out of revenge for Thanksgiving," my mom said. "That's what Claire's telling people." Of course she was. Because that's what Claire did. When things went wrong, she found someone else to blame. And I was the perfect scapegoat. The bitter, jealous adopted sister who couldn't stand to see Claire happy. It was the perfect narrative, and everyone was believing it. Everyone except one person. My dad showed up at my apartment that evening without calling. When I opened the door, he pulled me into a hug without saying a word, and I just broke down. I sobbed into his shoulder like I was 5 years old again. When I finally pulled away, he came inside and we sat on my couch. "I know you didn't do this," he said firmly. "I know my daughter, and you're not vindictive like that." "Dad, everyone thinks." "I don't care what everyone thinks," he interrupted. "I talked to Derek myself. He told me the truth. He told me his ex-wife, well, Marcus's wife, was the one who told him, not you." I wiped my tears. "Then why is Claire lying?" My dad sighed heavily. "Because she's scared and embarrassed and doesn't want to take responsibility for her choices. So she's making you the villain." "It's not fair," I whispered. "No, it's not," he agreed. "But here's what I know, the truth always comes out eventually. And when it does, everyone's going to see Claire for who she really is. And they're going to feel terrible for doubting you." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then something happened that proved my dad right sooner than anyone expected. 3 days later, Marcus's wife, her name was Jennifer, posted something on Facebook that went viral in our family's social circle. It was a long detailed post about her divorce, about how her husband had been having an affair with his coworker who was planning a wedding to another man. She named names. She posted screenshots of text messages between Marcus and Claire. Messages that were explicit, romantic, and damning. Messages that dated back 8 months, well into Claire's engagement. Jennifer tagged mutual friends, including several people in my family. Within hours, everyone knew. The real story. The truth. My phone started buzzing again, but this time with very different messages. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should never have doubted you. Claire lied to all of us." Even Aunt Linda called, crying, apologizing for accusing me. My mom called too, her voice thick with shame. "Honey, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you from the start." I accepted their apologies, but honestly, the damage was done. They'd been so quick to believe the worst about me, so quick to take Claire's side without even asking for my version of events. And then Claire called me, at 2 in the morning. My phone rang at 2:17 a.m., jerking me out of sleep. I looked at the screen, Claire. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" My voice was groggy. "It's all gone," Claire sobbed on the other end. "Everything's gone. Derek hates me. Marcus won't answer my calls. Everyone knows what I did. My job is asking questions. I have nothing left." I sat up in bed, turning on my lamp. "Claire, I know I don't deserve your sympathy," she continued, her words slurring together through tears. "I know I've been awful to you. For years. For your whole life. But please, please, I need help. I need my sister." My sister. The word hung in the air between us. The same word she'd told me I had no right to at Thanksgiving. "Claire, I don't know what you want me to do," I said quietly. "I want you to tell everyone the truth," she said. "That you didn't sabotage my wedding. That this was all my fault. That I'm the one who ruined everything." I was silent for a long moment. Because honestly, I didn't know if I wanted to help her anymore. Here's the thing about revenge, it never feels as good as you think it will. I'd spent months imagining this moment. Claire broken, humiliated, begging for my help, and now that it was happening, I just felt empty. Tired. "Jennifer already posted everything online," I told Claire. "Everyone already knows it wasn't me. The truth is out there." "But you could call people," she pressed. "You could talk to Mom and Dad, tell them I'm sorry, tell them I need help." "Claire," I interrupted. "I'm not your publicist. I'm not your damage control. You made these choices. You have to face the consequences." She was silent for a moment. Then, in a small voice, "I know. You're right." I took a deep breath. "But I'll tell you what I will do. I'll tell everyone that despite everything you've done to me, you're still my sister. And I hope you get help. Real help. Whatever you need to figure out why you sabotage yourself and hurt people who love you." "That's more than I deserve," she whispered. "Yeah," I agreed. "It is." We hung up, and I thought that was the end. But 3 months later, something unexpected happened. 3 months after that phone call, I got a text from Claire. Not begging, not dramatic. Just, "I'm in therapy twice a week now. Actually dealing with my stuff. I owe you a real apology. Coffee sometime?" We met. And for the first time in our lives, Claire actually apologized. Really apologized. No excuses, no blame shifting. Just, "I'm sorry for making you feel like you didn't belong. You've always been my real sister, and I was too insecure to accept that." Did it fix everything? No. Did I immediately trust her again? Absolutely not. But it was a start. As for the wedding, it never happened. Derek moved on. Claire's still single, still working on herself. And me? I learned something important through all of this. I don't need anyone's permission to be part of my family. I don't need to prove my worth or pay for my place at the table. I belong because I choose to belong. And anyone who can't accept that? That's their problem, not mine. Oh, and that $4,892 bill? I framed it. Hung it on my wall as a reminder that I'm priceless. So that's my story. The Thanksgiving family drama that turned into the wedding disaster nobody saw coming. If you've ever dealt with family feud situations, sister betrayal, or been told you're not real family, drop a comment below. This emotional family confrontation taught me that sometimes the best response to shocking family stories isn't revenge, it's boundaries. Thanks for watching this viral family story. Hit subscribe for more family conflict stories and real life drama. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to belong, you're already enough. See you next time.